So newsjacking is one of my favorite digital PR tactics because it's the great equalizer. You can't really get better or worse at newsjacking with huge budgets. The key to newsjacking is speed and relevance. But what even is newsjacking? So newsjacking is the ability for a business to comment, give data, give context, give content to a journalist around a certain story that's already happening, and the journalist adds that to give more layers to an existing story. Long story short is you talking about the news, but being in the news while doing it. So there's a really famous newsjacking curve where interest is on the left and then time is on the right, where news is going to break just about here. And then if you catch the curve as it's going up, then that's the perfect time to be able to get your comments in, because any story is going to get covered between 1 to 3 times. Main story and then 1 to 2 follow-ups. If it's a really, really big story, it can be more than that, but on average, it's 2 follow-ups. So you want to be either one of the breaking news people, or more realistically, one of the 2 follow-up stories. So you want to get in as early as possible. Because as you newsjack, journalists about here are scrambling for information. So if you're in their inbox before they start scrambling for information, you're a lot more likely to be the source that they cite. And then public excitement starts to grow as more people learn about the story, then peak. At the peak, it is more or less useless to even try to pitch the story because it becomes old news very quickly and then it's done. Most stories you want to pitch within the hour of the story breaking. That is the golden hour of newsjacking. But there's an issue. There's a lot of news and there's a ton of different people scrambling to comment on the news. So you have to find a really, really good angle, cater it really well to the journalist, but more importantly, get there first. And one of the best ways to do that is by using trends tools. I've used multiple trends tools, Google, TikTok trends when it was more usable, but nothing does what Break the Web does. So let me show you how you can newsjack like a pro using Break the Web. So one of the most beautiful things about Break the Web is that it summarizes all of the biggest stories in one specific place, where you don't really have to go around to all the different sources to find what people are talking about. So you can go to the news section and find all of the news stories that have just come out. You can go into the technology section and find out everything that is being talked about in the news. So this is a really good example. Facebook acquiring Maltbook. And then if you are a technology expert, you can probably comment on this story and be part of the first or second follow-ups to that story. If you keep Break the Web on a side screen somewhere and you check it a couple times a day, you will eventually find different stories that relate to your specific niche. But you can also add a layer to that, where at different instances in the day, you can literally speak to it. So if you go here into the text box and say, I am a car expert, give me stories in the news that I can use for PR for my client. So it gives you all of these stories in real time, where if you use something like ChatGPT or Claude, a lot of the time it will give you surface level data. It will give you data that has been trending for a while or hasn't trended or just hallucinates and gives you a story from 2002. But the beauty of this is that it's real-time data. It's the pulse of the internet. So if it's not trending on Break the Web, it's not trending anywhere else, because it more or less scrapes the web to find out everything that people are talking about and groups them semantically or by topic to be able to give you what people are actually talking about, not what keywords they're searching, like what Google Trends does. A bunch of other ways that you can find different stories is by following journalist requests on Twitter and LinkedIn, checking Reddit and social media for trends, or using alert software like Google Alert or Alert Mouse to be able to notify you of when specific topics are being talked about. So now that you have your news story that you think is relevant, it's time to start thinking of different ideas to use in these news stories. So you can go back to Break the Web and find the story that you like and say, for example, give me different ideas to comment on the Ford recall story. And then it literally just gives you a bunch of different ideas, some B2B, some B2C, and that could be the basis to your ideation. But what's really important is that once you get there first, you offer the journalist something that isn't obvious. So if you're going to talk about the Ford recall story, it is not enough to say Ford recall is going to have an effect on their stocks. Obviously, that is an obvious thing. It's not of value. But what is it going to do to the rest of the market? What can people who own Ford vehicles do? Think of the 2 follow-up stories that are going to happen and think what can those topics be and what are people going to be interested in. So 4 easy questions to know that your newsjacking campaign is going to work are: is this genuinely relevant to my brand or client? Do you have something to add to the story? Is the story publishable in target outlets? And is it just too late? Or has someone already spoken about this? Because if they have, you can try to pivot your angle in a way that adds a unique perspective. But the worst thing to do is to just pitch the same thing to someone else, because it's very likely that they just won't cover it. Once you have your idea, the easiest way is to package your comments in a very simple email and send it to as many journalists as possible that have already covered this story, and make sure that with your newsjacking efforts that it's sustainable. One of the mistakes people make is they invest a lot too much in their newsjacking campaigns. And what's more important is that you are constantly there in the news. If you put everything into a newsjacking campaign and you spend like 3-4 hours, you might put in more effort, but be a bit delayed and then feel like this isn't working. But what's really important is that you aim to have it done within an hour or 2 from ideation to pitching, and then do it regularly whenever something in the news hits that is relevant to you. So I would say the framework would be to monitor using tools like Break the Web, filter and find all of the stories that are relevant to your brand that you can speak about, draft a quick press release or a quick pitch email that shouldn't take you more than 15 to 20 minutes to write up, and then identify a bunch of targets that are already talking about the story and push it to them as early as possible. But what does this look like in real life? Let's go through a bunch of different examples. So this story from the Metro talking about this ridiculous TikTok trend that risks amputation and permanent disability, where people were just dropping things on their foot for whatever reason. This is a very good opportunity for any brand to jump in, because these journalists might have not seen the trend. So if you're a healthcare expert, psychology expert, education expert, this might be a really good opportunity for you to just give very simple comments on why are people doing this and what are the impacts of this. Another example that's a bit more niche is this story from CNET, where it talks about Wi-Fi experts revealing how Trump's budget bill could slow down your Wi-Fi. A political story that might not have a lot to do with a technology expert, but because he knows his industry, he knows what the implications of the political story is going to be. So he's first to the story, pushes it out, and then gets published on a technology publication. Very relevant, very interesting to his audience, and very unique and insightful. But as amazing as newsjacking is, it's important to pair it with other PR efforts. So if you're interested in learning how to build PR campaigns from scratch and not waiting for the news, you can watch this video that will tell you exactly how to do that.